phone calls, and it's really starting to scare me.
Police department, can I help you?
I know he can see me. He's watching me through the window.
You're safe inside that house.
Stop calling me.
Jill, we traced the call. It's coming from inside the house.
When a stranger calls, rated PG-13, everywhere February 3rd.
Oh, Camilla Belle. I remember when Hollywood was trying to make you a thing, but you kept starring in terrible, terrible movies like this movie and 10,000 BC, and it was just like, yeah, your career was pretty much over and done with after that, but, yeah. I remember when they were trying to make her a thing, and to be honest, it's not really her fault. It's just that this movie is so poorly put together. This is, of course, a remake of the 1979 movie starring Carol Kane, which became a cult classic mostly because of the first over 20 minutes of the movie, the first 23 minutes to be exact. And so this movie, with its smart brain, let's go ahead and take that 23 minutes and let's expand it into a feature film. Fuck the rest of the story that made the original film such a classic film. And, yeah. And guess what happens here? So you have Camilla Belle playing a babysitter who starts receiving threatening phone calls from an unidentified stranger, played by both Tommy Flanagan, who plays the stranger in The Fool, and Lance Henriksen, who does the voice in when he's talking to her on the phone. And, of course, you hear the line from the movie, you know, the call is coming from inside the house, which in the original was very chilling and terrifying, but in here, that was their selling point for the whole movie, so good job. You just spoiled the entire movie. You spoiled the thrill factor from in the trailer alone. So why the hell should anybody go see the movie? Because this is Screen Gems, and Screen Gems doesn't give a crap. You know, Screen Gems knows that nobody is going to go see this movie after this weekend. So, you know, that they know that it's a very heavy front-loaded movie, and people are going to go on date nights on Friday and Saturday, not Sunday, of course, because of the Super Bowl. So they'll take whatever money they can get and go run off somewhere else, because this was a hit. Unfortunately, this was only a $15 million budgeted film. It only brought in $67 million worldwide. So they made their money. They got the hell on out of there, and the only positive thing they took from it is that we destroyed another classic horror movie, because we're Screen Gems, and who cares about actually taking a classic horror movie and actually making it as good as the original. We want to water it down so the teens can go see it on date nights, and hopefully they'll get some TNA and then never hear about this movie ever again. That's the Screen Gems way of doing things. But then again, that's also Sony's thing of doing that too, because of course they had The Fog come out in October, and that was also a bad remake of a horror classic. And yeah, this is about as bad as it gets. Taking the first 23 minutes of this movie, which are the most memorable scenes in the entire movie, and trying to stretch it out into this movie, doesn't work unless you do something with it, unless you do something that actually makes it worth it in the end. Like in the original film, they did something with it. They took advantage of what they were trying to accomplish with the first 23 minutes, because the rest of the movie is intense and terrifying, and it helps by having a great performance by Carol Kane that makes you care about her character and get involved in the situation with this guy that keeps calling on the phone. Plus, there's just no scares in here. Every moment that you can think of here, a jump scare, none of it is scary whatsoever, because we've seen this done so many times. You think the filmmakers of this movie give a crap? No, of course not. Why would they? I mean, they know that this is a quick money thing, you know, get the money while you can, and then just get the hell on out of here. Like, they're not going to put any effort into this. Like, it's just a bad movie. It's a really, really bad movie. Maybe one of the worst horror remakes of all time, just for the fact that, like, the idea of taking the most memorable moments of the original film and expanding it into a film could be well done, but you don't get somebody who literally does not have any other writing credits to do that on here. This guy, Jake Wade Wall, I swear to God, this was probably intended to be a made-for-TV movie, like for Lifetime or the WB, because this does not feel like a film that was meant to go to the big screen at all. And I'm sorry, Camilla Belle. She's probably a nice woman overall, and can be a decent actress, but you picked some really bad movies and screwed yourself out of potentially a really good film career as a whole, because, yeah, this movie's terrible. Not much more to say about that one, When a Stranger Calls. So, Let's go ahead and move on to our last film we have here, and that is Sanaa Lathan and Simon Baker starring in Something New.
We may not have everything we want at the moment, but we do have each other. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's get down to business. We're the brothers.
Kenya thought she knew exactly what she wanted in a
He
man.
doesn't have to make a lot of money so long as he's got a job. No kids, good teeth. He just has to be taller than me, college educated, and not crazy. Or bisexual.
But with her busy life,
You're being considered for partner.
Some of us have to work extra hard just to stay in the game.
she didn't think she'd ever find it.
Your house is amazing. I love the landscaping. Then you must meet our landscaper.
Until she met someone new.
Kenya just bought her first house.
Really?
So maybe you could go take a look at it. You'll have to leave him in the car. I don't do dogs.
Well, neither do I. We're just good friends.
So if you ever wanted to see a movie where Donna Tums and The Mentalist got together, here you go. Here's that movie for you. That's pretty much what the movie is. I mean, it's basically another Guess Who's Coming to Dinner type of film. That's not quite the 2005 comedy remake, but still not the original classic one that won all the Oscars back in the day. You have a story that focuses mostly on interracial relationships and traditional African-American family values and social customs. And the film itself is just okay. I mean, I remember liking it back in the day, but watching it, getting ready to talk about it here on the show, yeah, it definitely has a lot more flaws to it than I do remember. It's not one of the stronger movies in general of trying to get the message across, but I think there is still a lot to like about the movie in general. I think the chemistry between Lathan and Baker works very well. You have a really good supporting cast that includes Mike Epps, Donald Faison, Blair Underwood, Alfre Woodard, Wendy Raquel Robinson. There is a lot of good talent involved in this movie. Taraji P. Henson is in here as well. I think there is a lot here that does work towards the film being somewhat of a film that I could say I recommend, but not quite to the point where I would say that it's something that you should see. This director has made another movie I have liked of his. This is his or her. I can't remember if this is a woman or not. That's a woman. I'm sorry. I apologize. Pretty well-known director, too. Sanaa Hamri, who also did Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2, but she directed a lot of music videos for Prince, Mariah Carey, Christina Aguilera, and Sting. So, yeah, I probably should have known that. But, yeah, she did a movie that I really like called Just Right with Queen Latifah. And that one was really good, too. We'll get to that one in 2010. But this film, it's not as good as I remember it, but it's still not a bad movie either. It's just sort of in the middle. It's a film that I think works mostly because of the cast and the chemistry between the two leads. But you could tell they were trying to go for something similar to what the original Guess Who's Coming to Dinner's message was always supposed to be. And it doesn't quite show in this movie in general, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I mean, it's not a bad film. It's just a film that I feel like there could have been so much more to it. And the end result is a film that's just an okay film, but really could have been so much more if I remembered it. If I remember it being as good as I remembered watching it back in the day, was what I'm trying to say here. But so yeah, not much more to say about that one. That is Something New.
Somewhere in this arena, in front of 60,000 screaming fans, the crime of the century has been committed. And only one man can solve it.
Officer Jacques Cluzeux, gendarme, third class.
That had to help. He's got a partner.
Without warning, I will attack you. In this way, I will keep you vigilant and alert.
Good one.
Thank you.
He's got a clue.
He was just found dead. Was it fatal?
Yes.
How fatal?
Completely.
And he'll stop at nothing to crack the case. Steve Martin. Kevin Kline.
I see you have one of these collapsible pointers. You just snap it and
And Beyonce Knowles.
here she is. Newspapers!
The Pink Panther.
So yeah, this is a remake, of course, of the classic 1960s Pink Panther movies that made Peter Sellers. You know, he made those movies, the great movies that they were, not only with him and Blake Edwards, but, you know, the original Pink Panther is one of my favorite comedies of all time. So, yeah, needless to say, there is a lot going into this movie, and not surprisingly, the film didn't do so well with critics, but it did eventually become a success at the box office, even though it was tossed around the release schedule for a little bit here. But then again, that was mostly because of what was going on with MGM itself, because they were kind of in the middle of, you know, abandoning their solo studio status and working with other studios in general. I think around this time they were with Sony Pictures, and that's why the movie kept getting pushed around here. That trailer I showed you, though, is from actually late 2004, and I remember that because I saw that trailer during Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events back in December of 2004. But in this movie, you have Steve Martin as Inspector Jacques Clouseau, who's assigned to solve the murder of a famous soccer coach, as you see there, played by Jason Bateman. Not Jason Bateman, good lord, Jason Statham. Sorry. Jason Statham is the soccer coach, and the theft of the famous Pink Panther diamond. You also have Kevin Kline as Commissioner Dreyfus, Chief Inspector Dreyfus. You also have Beyonce Knowles. You have Emily Mortimer playing the girlfriend of Steve Martin's character in this, and Jean Reno as his partner. And this was directed by Sean Levy. This is actually one of his 2 movies released in 2006. But then again, this was a film that was pushed back from originally 2005 release, because later in the year we had Night at the Museum. But you know, I've kind of talked a little bit about the Pink Panther on this particular show when we looked at some of the Pink Panther back in '93, and yeah, it wasn't a great movie overall. But this one, I still don't think it's a great movie. It's definitely not the original Pink Panther, because the original Pink Panther still is very, very good and still very, very well done. The Peter Sellers movies are classics. You can never do anything really to replicate them or do something new or do something different with them. I mean, you would really need to get somebody like a Taika Waititi, or, you know, get somebody like a Lin-Manuel Miranda to play Inspector Clouseau. You need to just do something unique and different with the Pink Panther to really give it a good, refreshing revival for a new generation. I think they are still working on one, but it's going to be like a live-action CG hybrid, which, I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest supporter of that idea in general here. But for this movie in particular, I think they did a good enough job. And I think it works mostly because Steve Martin is very committed to the role of Inspector Clouseau. I think the cast overall really is good. I think there is a lot of good talent involved in here. You know, Kevin Kline will usually never turn in a bad performance in a movie, even if it's a bad film in general. You know, Jean Reno has a great chemistry with Martin as his partner in this. Emily Mortimer has a nice little role in here, playing the girlfriend to Clouseau in this. And Beyonce Knowles, like, she doesn't really have a whole lot to do in general, but in the little scenes that she's in, I thought she was okay in here too. Like there's a lot of great overall bits of entertainment value in the movie. There's a lot of good comedic moments in here that do work in general. Do I think it's on the level of what the original classics were like? No, but I think for what they were trying to do, I think it's very well done. Like, there's one scene I always remember from this where, like, it's like this random subplot that kind of comes out of nowhere, you know. Clouseau goes to this bar at this fancy restaurant and sees this guy who is played by Clive Owen. He was in like an uncredited role. I guess they were trying to make him look like he's James Bond because he's an MI6 agent. And I don't know if he was rumored to be James Bond at some point, or maybe this was kind of a joke in general to that. But you know, there's this random moment where, you know, he goes to him and he's just like, inside of there, there's these bad guys known as the Gas Mask Bandits, and Steve Martin goes like, "Oh my God, the Gas Mask Bandits!" And like, for some reason, Clive Owen's the one that does the job for him, and he all of a sudden becomes a hero, and it's just like, it just really comes out of nowhere. But it works because Clive Owen is so committed to the role, and again, it's Steve Martin that really is putting all the effort into it. Like, it's a film that is can be well done at times, but like, it definitely feels like a film that very much was chopped up, because supposedly this was supposed to have more of a raunchier tone to it. I think that the reason why this film got pushed back, as I'm looking at here, is that it was actually Sony who did this when they picked up MGM. They said that it was heavily edited and key scenes were reshot in an effort to create a more family-friendly feature, which the original Pink Panther is not really much of a family-friendly feature. I know it's got the G rating, but then again, it was a 1960s movie. Even the most hardcore movie that would be PG-13 nowadays got a G rating back in the day. Hell, I think there were horror movies back in the day that had G ratings to them. I mean, that's how That's how lax the MPA rating system was back in the day. But as it says here, with the recent acquisition of MGM at the time, we wanted to give our marketing department an opportunity to launch this very important franchise. We've seen the movie, we really love the film, it's a franchise we believe in, and we're really excited about it, and Steve Martin is great as Clouseau. Well, I mean, they're kind of right on some elements to it, but I really would like to see that raunchier version of it. I mean, I feel like that this film could have been so much better if they went with a more raunchier tone with it. Like, this director, Sean Levy, we've talked about his movies before. He's a good comfort food director. Like, he's a guy that never really has to go above and beyond, except when he does. It usually will deliver a mostly entertaining film. I'm not expecting him to do anything that grand or spectacular or anything. I mean, nowadays we can probably expect it because he's worked so well with Ryan Reynolds with a couple of movies that he's done with Free Guy, The Adam Project, and recently, as at the time that's coming out, Deadpool and Wolverine. But, you know, it feels like when you watch this, you do feel like Sean Levy has an idea about how to make the Pink Panther work for modern times. I mean, it does feel like he has a love affair for the Pink Panther series in general when you watch the film and also watch the deleted stuff that you can see. There was originally supposed to be the CG version of the opening animated credits, which they use more of a 2D animation style here that's made by Kurtz and Friends, who have done a lot of opening credit sequences in the past. I think they did Honey, I Blew Up the Kid back in the 90s, but, like, he has a clear idea of how to modernize the Pink Panther for a new generation, and it really would have been interesting to see what he would have done, what this film would have been like if they went with a more raunchier tone to the film. But as it is, like, the family-friendly route, I personally don't like the fact that it goes down that route, but as it is, I think it's fine for what it is. I think it is a very solid film overall. I think it's a very entertaining film that if you go into it with the right mindset with it, I think you can find a lot there to appreciate about the movie. I think there is a lot there to really like about it, and I personally really enjoy it. I still think it holds up after all these years. It still has a lot of funny moments in there that I still think do hold up very well. But as far as saying it's a great movie, I'm not going to go that far. I would say watch the original Peter Sellers movies first before you delve into these films. But this is definitely a lot better than what they tried to do after Sellers died. Like, you know, Curse the Pink Panther and then Son of the Pink Panther. This definitely is much better than those movies. I can tell you that for sure. But don't worry, they'll find a way to screw it up with the next film because they'll do another one in 2009. We'll get to that one eventually. But before we get to that, we still have to finish this week's crop of movies. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film we have here, and that is Final Destination 3.
Who got off that roller coaster are still going to die. Unless we can figure out how to stop it.
I never thought I could see my own death before it happened.
So yeah, the whole idea of setting this up as the Final Destination movie, which, you know, it's funny how a Final Destination movie has more than one movie attached to it, and, you know, I think I made that joke back in Final Destination 2, but Final Destination 3 was marketed back then as the last Final Destination movie, but of course, that is not the case because now we've had 2 movies since then, and a 6th one I think is actually already finished and ready to come out at some point, but in this movie, you have Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Ryan Merriman. They're high school graduates. Winstead's character has a premonition that a roller coaster she and her classmates are riding will derail. Although she saves some of them, death begins hunting the survivors. Wendy realizes that photographs she took at the amusement park contain clues about her classmates' deaths, with survivor and friend Kevin. Wendy tries to use this knowledge to say the rest of the survivors are ruined death schemes. The first two movies did a pretty good job of making the story make sense, even though a lot of the reasons why the film keeps going would make no sense whatsoever, because once those people get off of what they were supposed to die from, that should take away the idea. That should take away the overall threat. I mean, in the first movie, Devon Sawa's character, of course, is the one who, you know, he sees the premonition that they're going to die on an airplane. Everybody all their friends get off, so that should stop the plane from exploding, and yet somehow it explodes. Kind of like in the second movie too, with the highway scene, like the girl sees the premonition about the highway, and like she gets to the second chance and says and decides to get the hell out of the way. But only this time there is still a casualty to that film. So they do kind of up the ante in this movie. The logic in this movie completely flies out the door because, yeah, she has the premonition about the roller coaster going off in graphic detail, mind you. They get off, and then all of a sudden, the coaster still goes on that collision, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever why that happens. The logic in this movie just goes all over the place. Like, this movie is notable for the one scene where you have the two, I guess, Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie knockoffs, because that's literally what they look like. They go into the tanning bed, and they get stuck inside the tanning bed. But when you see how the scene plays out, there's like a piece of wood that's holding all this stuff on top of it. Just happens to fall right on the tanning bed, and just conveniently goes right in between the areas where the two girls are inside of there, and that's why they can't get out. Just like, the logic in this movie makes no sense whatsoever. At least in a Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th movie, there is still somewhat of a logical sense of why these things are happening to these people. But in this movie, logic is completely thrown out the door, and just everything is just set up in the most Rube Goldberg type of way possible, and it gets to a point where it's just like, you're really starting to question the logic in general of what the hell's going on in here. And even at the end of the movie, they literally are just phoning it in, like, you know, something really bad is about to happen. Like, there's literally scenes where they're setting everything up, and you hear Tony Todd in this movie at the end going like, it's the final stop, and like everything is just like building up, and then I guess to the movie's credit, it has kind of a cool twist in the fact that, you know, they set this whole thing up, and you think that she has another premonition. It's just like, oh, she's going to get out of it. But this time, nope, you're not getting out of this one. And that's how the movie ends in general. So I'll give it that. I'll give it that for having the balls to go down that route in general. But, I mean, it's weird with this movie. I mean, I like it, but I'm not gonna say that the movie is great, mostly because the logic just takes a back seat in this one, and this just definitely is the one that just like, you know, just accept the kills, and if you don't like them, you know, this isn't your movie, and if you like them, you might enjoy this film. This is a movie that should be as fun as the first two films, but you could just tell that this was the one they were clearly trying to make a quick buck on and making it as cheap as they can, because everything gets dragged out to the point where the film becomes almost unbearable, and it just gets to a point where it's just like, you can't take it anymore, because everything that they're building up just keeps dragging on and on and on. It's just like, come on, man, just get over it already. And it's just like, it's amazing how this is the worst of the Final Destination movies, even though the fourth and fifth one are more notoriously known for just being stuff that just drags it, just like goes way above and beyond. It gets a little bit more ridiculous for its own good, but at least those movies were at least getting straight to the point on how they kill people. But this is the one that really did feel like they were just dragging everything out. It was just like, get on with it, man. Come on. Like, yeah, needless to say, this is definitely the worst of the Final Destination films. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, I would rather watch the two sequels that came after this than this movie again, or the first two movies again. This is definitely the black sheep of the Final Destination series, no doubt about that. So that is Final Destination 3. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Curious George.
In all of the jungle, no creature is as curious as George. If there's a laugh, he's up for it. If there's trouble, he's behind it. And if there's a chance for adventure,
Can I have my hat, please?
he's into it.
Peekaboo. Oh, boo. This was fun. I gotta go.
But George is about to discover just how far curiosity can take him.
You followed me all the way from Africa?
Now, he's in a whole new world. And still up to his same old tricks.
Oh boy. I'm gonna want to put the cucumbers back on. Right, that was fun. Bye-bye.
From producer Ron Howard and Imagine Entertainment.
Mister, George is floating away.
Hang on, little fella. I'm coming for you. Oh my.
Comes a comedy that proves there's no end to what you can discover.
George!
When you're curious. Featuring new songs by Jack Johnson and the voice talents of Will Ferrell, Drew Barrymore, David Cross, Eugene Levy, Joan Plowright, and Dick Van Dyke. This February, get ready for some serious monkey business. Curious George.
There's no way I'm gonna eat that bug, so quit trying. Oh, wow. Yep. That tastes bad. Definitely bitter.
I think, honestly, the most interesting thing about this movie is the fact that this is a straightforward 2D animated feature where Universal really did everything they could to promote this movie and make it a hit, and it worked, sort of. The box office results were not that strong, but then again, most kids' movies in February don't really open up that big in particular. I mean, you really need a really good a really big new movie to open up around this time to get kids really invested to come to the theater. And this was kind of pushing it, but still made for a really great movie in general. And the story, of course, based off the series of children's books, follows the man with the yellow hat, who's named Ted in here, played by Will Ferrell, who's a tour guide at the museum, who first befriends a curious monkey named George, and starts going on adventures with him around the city while attempting to save the museum from closure. And most notably, it's the first theatrical animated release from Universal since Balto came out in '95. Keep in mind, this was still about 5 years from before Universal eventually partnered up with Illumination Entertainment with Despicable Me, and this is the first feature film for Imagine Entertainment, and it actually was a project that was in development hell for several years, as this was a film that Ron Howard's company had since 1992, and it was probably convinced years before that, probably as a live-action CG film in general here, but then here they go with a more traditional animation with CG stuff, scenery and objects that make up 20% of the environment, according to Wikipedia here, and of course, as the trailer says, there's songs by Jack Johnson, which the soundtrack was a much bigger hit, I think, than the movie was. And the soundtrack is really, really good. A lot of great songs that you still listen to. You could still hear if you listen to the music in your grocery stores. I know that for certain because I work in a grocery store. But this is a really good movie, man. This is a film that is, not just from an animation perspective, which is really great to see a big 2D animated feature on the big screen once again. Of course, I went to see this on the same day as the Pink Panther, and I thought it was definitely worth it in the end. But you know, overall, the movie really is a nice tribute and love letter to the book series in general, because, I mean, you really do buy into the relationship of George and Ted in here. Like, you really do believe that Will Ferrell's character does care about this monkey, you know, throughout the course of the film. And yeah, you know, it's a really nice story they have together here. I think the voice cast overall is really good. Will Ferrell, I think, does a very good job in the role of Ted. Even though there are those Will Ferrell mannerisms at times, you know, screaming at the top of his lungs, because why not? Because this is around the time when he was known for doing that. You know, Drew Barrymore has a nice little role in here. David Cross is a fun little villain role in here. Eugene Levy can be good in here, too. Dick Van Dyke has a nice little fun role in here as well. This is directed by Matthew O'Callaghan, too, who also did a lot of stuff you might be familiar with, like the Itsy Bitsy Spider short from Bebe's Kids. He also did Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas and the sequel Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas. And this is actually his theatrical feature film debut. I don't think he's done anything else since this, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of theatrical releases. Now I'm kind of curious here. Let me see. I think this is the only theatrical feature film he's directed. But he has done a lot of other stuff you might be familiar with since then. He did stuff for, you know, Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. He did stuff for Disney's A Christmas Carol. He did those Wile E. Coyote shorts that used to play in 3D in front of Warner Brothers movies. He did a lot of the Looney Tunes 3D shorts they did, like in the early 2000s. But he's done a lot of stuff that you probably have seen before, and this is a really, really good movie, man. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Even if you're not a big fan of the book series in general, there's just so much to admire about this film in general, from just the storytelling, the animation perspective, the voice casting. It's a nice little film. Like, I think anybody, not just kids, but adults can enjoy it as well. And it just takes you back to a time when this was around the time when 2D animated features were less of what they used to be back in the day. And to see one that really is very well done and works very well to capture the spirit of the book series, I mean, it's kind of hard not to be impressed by it whatsoever. It's a very good film. One I can't recommend enough. If you haven't seen Curious George, definitely check it out. It is definitely more than worth a watch. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film we have here, and that is Harrison Ford in Firewall.
She has beautiful eyes, your daughter.
They'll take your family.
If your husband doesn't do exactly as I ask, I will kill you and your 2 children.
They'll take your life. I spent 20 years trying to protect this bank.
Find me a way in.
On February 10th,
When is Daddy coming home?
they're already inside.
What's going on?
Dad, do whatever you can to save the children.
Hang on, baby. Firewall, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, February 10th.
That one time when Vision just completely went evil and just tried to force Indiana Jones to help him rob a bank. I mean, that's literally what the movie is. You have a story where you have, as a bid to pay off his family's ransom, a security specialist named Jack Stanfield, played by Harrison Ford, is forced into robbing a bank that he's protecting. His family gets kidnapped and taken to the middle of nowhere, and it's up to Jack to rescue his family and get the money back. It's also funny because this is the same director that worked with Paul Bettany on Wimbledon, so this is also kind of a sequel. Like, if he and Kirsten Dunst didn't work out in the end, this was basically what his character eventually became, just a bank robber in general. And there's a possibility here for something good in this movie, because usually Harrison Ford doesn't make a lot of bad movies, but even for him, this is just pushing it in general. And I mean, there's just nothing of value here in this film. It just really doesn't work out as well as I think they wanted it to. I mean, everybody in here is trying their best, but just the material they have here, the twist in here is not really that engaging. Even the main plot itself is nothing really all that exciting. It's just like, you work in this bank, rob it for me, or else I'm going to kill your family. We got a plot for a movie. Let's do it. And yeah, it just didn't work for me. And some people have compared it to James Bond too. Can kind of see it, and yeah, it does feel like a film that's trying to be so many different things, and yet it can't figure out the one thing it wants to be in general, and it just falls apart way too quickly for me to get invested in whatsoever. This was definitely a major disappointment when it came out, and I was really looking forward to it, and when I finally got to see it, it was just kind of like, yeah, this isn't working for me. So a hard pass on Firewall, unfortunately.
Welcome to the bottom of the world, Doc.
Go any further south, you'll fall off the planet.
In Antarctica, the most isolated region on Earth, survival expert Jerry Shepard and the crew of the United States Research Base are about to embark on the last mission of the season.
Dr. McLaren needs to get to Mount Melbourne. There's only one way to make that trip, and that's with the dogs. The dogs. On lead, we got my best girl, Maya. This is Shorty. All brawn or no brain. But we love him. That's Max. He's still in training. What's the granddaddy of the bunch, old Jack? You in or out, buddy?
Translation?
That'd be out. We got the twins, Dewey, Truman, the gray one, Shadow, and the red one's Buck. Where are we going, Dry Valleys?
Yeah, like the dogs know where they're going.
You going to Melbourne?
That's incredible.
All right, team, last hike of the season. Hike! Doc, don't move. You're outside the safety zone. Doc! Doc! Easy, Maya. Take it to him. Hike!
Dr. McLaren needs proper medical attention.
What are we going to do about the dogs?
We can only carry what we can. We can fly right back, bring the dogs out.
I'll be back. I promise.
The storm of the century is hitting.
How are we gonna get the dogs?
This winter,
Nobody flies back, not in this weather. Those dogs are my family. We can't just leave them out there.
8 heroes will be stranded at the bottom of the world. And as they make their way across the frozen wilderness, all they can count on is each other.
Never underestimate any living spirit's will to survive, especially when they're surrounded by family.
And the one man
I gotta get back there.
will stop at nothing to bring them home.
I owe it to him.
From Walt Disney Pictures comes the most incredible story of survival, friendship,
They saved my life. These 8 amazing dogs.
and adventure
Let's go.
ever told.
You gotta take chances for the things you care about.
8 Below, inspired by a true story.
Boy, Frank Marshall directed a lot of movies in different climates. Like, it started off with Arachnophobia, which took place in California, and then he did Alive, which took place in the snowy mountains. Then Congo, which took place in the African jungles. I think it was the African jungles, but now we have 8 Below, and he's back in the snow again. And I guess it works because the film is pretty good. You have a story here where it has Paul Walker as this guy who's a guide in a toy boat. A guide at an Antarctic research base who risks his life and the lives of his colleagues to save his dogs. And if you watch that trailer closely, it says 8 Below, but yeah, I don't think 8 dogs are going to survive the end of this movie, it looks like. But yeah, the movie itself actually is really good. It's actually one of the better Paul Walker non-Fast and Furious movies, if not the best one in general, because it is a really good movie. And it definitely plays to the strengths of why Paul Walker was such a good actor, because, you know, there's a lot of scenes of him where he's got to work with these dogs in general here, and they do a pretty good job of making these dogs look like capable actors. I mean, I swear the first time I saw this, I thought this was a much serious sequel to Snow Dogs, because half the dogs in here literally look like the dogs from Snow Dogs. I mean, it's like they took the CG out of Snow Dogs and said, let's just make a real movie with real dogs is involved in here. And yeah, it makes for a much better movie in general here. You have a good little ensemble cast that includes Bruce Greenwood, Moon Bloodgood, Jason Biggs, and like I said, I've said it before, there's just something about these movies that take place in the snow that's just very comforting to me. Like I see this in a theater, and I'm just like, okay, you know, it's February, it's cold outside, there's snow all over the ground. I'm all in on it, man. I've talked about movies like this before, where just the idea of a movie that's all covered in snow right around winter time, it just works for me. Like, it's my comfort food thing. Like, these movies just do something for me in general. Plus, the movie overall really is well done. It's a really engaging adventure film, you know. You do get invested in the dogs trying to get back home. You know, Paul Walker does a very good job on the role here, and the action and the intensity is very strong in general. It's a really good movie, and one I definitely recommend checking out. It's one that definitely is more than worth the watch. Not much more to say about this one, but yeah, definitely check it out, 8 Below. So with that said, let's go ahead and get on to our next movie, which is the spoof comedy. I guess you should put spoof in quotation marks, and comedy as well, because it's not really all that funny, but it's probably the best movie these guys have done, which isn't really saying a whole lot, but this is Date Movie.
Dear Diary, I believe in true love. My knight in shining armor is out there somewhere, and I'm gonna find him.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. You want it? Want it up? The boys always. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake.
From 2 of the 6 writers of Scary Movie comes the question.
Who's thirsty?
No.
Grantula's just embarrassed because he lost his virginity to the housekeeper.
What does it take to make the ultimate date movie?
Idiot. Hell no, I won't marry you. Gosh. Gosh. Gosh.
A little hitch.
Do you hitch?
Do I look like Will Smith to you? Yo, fellas, time to pimp her out.
parents.
That's Jinx's.
Taught him how to do that. And a lot of planning.
I'm Jello. I'm here to plan your dream wedding.
This February,
Is it too late to crash the wedding?
romantic comedies finally get
You're beautiful.
what's coming to them.
It's just a slumber party.
Date movie.
Yeah! What? Okay! Get it crunk! Get it crunk!
Do you get all the references yet? Do we have to keep shoving this in your face like I'm shoving my face into the camera right now? I apologize for that, but I'm sorry. Like, good lord, that trailer is just a perfect amalgamation of everything that is wrong with Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer movies. I mean, you have Allison Hannigan starring as a woman who is unhappy, she's overweight, she spends forever working at her father's diner and believes she will always be lonely. Then it's until she meets Grant Fuck Your Daughter, comedy. Before they have their dream wedding, they must meet each other's parents and survive the scheming Andy, who's played by Sophie Monk. And yeah, you could see all the references in there, and that's literally what they are in this movie. References. There's no storyline in particular here, except the main one being My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Meet the Parents, a little bit of Bridget Jones's Diary, but they throw in stuff like Hitch. You know, you see in the trailer, Hitch, The Wedding Planner. You know, there's a little bit of Kill Bill in there. There's The Lord of the Rings, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's just all over this movie. And as I said before, this is probably the only movie where it at least makes sense for a spoof movie in general here. This is on the level of something like A Spy Hard, which coincidentally was also written by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, except that one that had Leslie Nielsen in it, but this does not. And there's a lot of good people involved in this movie. Allison Hannigan can be really good, you know. Eddie Griffin can be funny at times, you know. Tony Cox can be very funny. You got Fred Willard, Jennifer Coolidge. I mean, there's a lot of really good talent in here, but unfortunately, that's all this movie is just reference after reference after reference. And like I said before, this is the most sane film that these guys have done, because it gets much worse as we go along here. I mean, it literally does get worse and worse and worse. You know, epic movie, disaster movie, Meet the Spartans, Vampires Suck. I mean, these movies keep getting progressively worse because these two guys knew that if they could just keep making movies that are relatable for the time, but will be dated almost immediately, and idiots will still go to see it because there's literally nothing else for there. And this is the same kind of humor. This is the same kind of strategy that Sony used for, like, what we talked about a couple weeks ago with When a Stranger Calls. Like, if we just put bad horror movies out there, get the money on the first weekend, and then we'll be done after that. Like, we'll be set, because we make these movies for such small budgets that we have no intentions on ever making anything of noteworthiness after the fact. And yeah, this was a small budgeted film, and guess what? It made 4 times its budget, which means that keep trotting out the terrible movies, and like I said, it's only going to get worse from this point forward. Enjoy this, because yeah, this is the best of the best. This is the best of the bunch, which even then isn't saying a whole lot, because yeah, everything that's wrong with these two directors in this movie. It's not a funny movie. It's not a clever movie. It wastes a lot of good talent in here. It's a bad movie. It's a bad movie. And like I said, it's the most tolerable of the movies that we're going to get to with these guys involved in it. So buckle up, because it's only going to get worse from here. So not much more to say about date movies. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film, which is Freedom Land.
There is a child in the car. Samuel L. Jackson gives the performance of a lifetime. I will not rest until I find your son. Julianne Moore is superb.
What is it? They have Cody?
In the movie critics call a shocking psychological thriller. There's a whole lot about that night we don't know. Freedom Land is heart-stopping, riveting, compelling. 4 stars with enough twists and turns to leave you breathless. We are going to find you. Freedom Land, rated R, opens everywhere Friday.
From the director of America's Sweethearts and Christmas with the Cranks, because clearly all 3 of these movies are connected to one another in the fact that they're directed by the head of the studio. No joke. This was directed by Joe Roth again, who literally was the head of the studio, Revolution Studios at the time. But in this movie, you see Samuel L. Jackson as a black police detective who must solve a strange case of a kidnapped boy and deal with a big racist protest. The woman whose kid is kidnapped is Julianne Moore. I said last time that Edie Falco was in it. I thought she was the second main character in the movie, but no, she's in the film, but it's Julianne Moore who's the main character in here. And the movie possibly had some stuff that could maybe work towards it. I mean, it's probably the best movie this guy has directed, Joe Roth, but at the same time, that's not really saying a whole lot in general. This is the same director that did America's Sweethearts, Christmas with the Cranks, Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise. But yeah, saying this is the best movie from him is like saying Date Movie's the best movie made by Freeberg and Seltzer. That's literally about as low of a bar as you can possibly get with a movie like this. And it just works because Samuel Jackson, like I said with The Man, like the guy does put 110%, even in the bad movies like this. And this is not a very engaging mystery whatsoever. You could pretty much figure out what the twist is going to be right from the get-go, and there's nothing about it that really makes it stand out or have this strong message to it. And it's just another bad movie by Julianne Moore too. Maybe 2004 wasn't just maybe she was just having a bad stretch of movies around this time, because yeah, this is another one that just doesn't work all that well. Yeah, just a lot of wasted potential, big disappointment with the people involved. Such a bad movie, man. And just when you think that the dumping months are gone, the dumping weeks are gone. Well, then again, we did have 8 Below, so maybe they are gone, and this is still studios thinking that they still have something, and then not so much. So yeah, that's Freedom Land.
There's a lot you can learn from Medea.
You're her foster mother, or you're a prison mother. I'll take the prison for 200, Alex.
About self-pride.
That ain't what people call you, it's what you answer to.
They used to call her wild low.
Self-help.
I'm not smart like the other
The
kids.
best revenge is to prove them wrong.
Best revenge you can have is to kick their butt.
And most of all, self-defense.
Shut up, old lady. We're waiting for you at 3 o'clock.
Tyler Perry's Medea's Family Reunion. Rated PG-13 in theaters everywhere, February 24th.
So yeah, definitely a much different film than Diary of a Mad Black Woman was. But in the story, you have Medea at the centerpiece of the storyline, preparing for an upcoming family reunion while dealing with the dramas before and during it. You have a cast that also includes Blair Underwood, Lynn Whitfield, Boris Kojo, Henry Simmons. You see Keke Palmer in one of her early film roles, Cicely Tyson, Maya Angelou's also in here as well. A lot of recognizable names in here. And as I said last time with Diary of a Mad Black Woman, I've very rarely seen these movies, so I really don't have a clear indication of how these movies are overall. I only saw the later Tyler Perry movies. Like, I think it started with, around the time Precious came out, that I started watching his movies more. But obviously, they don't really need my opinion on it, because these movies do very, very well. This film really kind of came out of nowhere and did, kind of like with Diary of a Mad Black Woman. There is an audience for these movies. And, they're coming out to see these movies, and this was an even bigger success than Diary of a Mad Black Woman was. So, I mean, really, there's not much more I can really add to it, because honestly, I've never really seen these movies. I can't really say if they're any good or not, these early films at least. But like I said, like, starting with Precious and then for Colored Girls, that's when I kind of started paying attention to some of the ones that came after that. Most of them are not that great in general here. As far as I know, I don't think there's been one that I've really, really liked overall. I think maybe the closest one that I have seen and kind of admire for how ridiculous it was Why Did I Get Married To? And it's funny because my first time seeing it was seeing it on a television in Red Robin. I actually have a video on this channel where I actually was in the Red Robin, and these two old white guys were sitting in front of the television. They were so invested with what was going on in that movie. Meanwhile, this is the time that the NCAA March Madness was going on, and I'll actually show you the video right here. Take a look at this. Yeah, it was actually 3 of them. I thought it was 2 at first, but then I remember, oh yeah, you turn the camera around, there's another guy. They're all paying attention to that movie over there. Like, it's just, I just thought that was so funny to me. I don't know why they were so invested in that instead of March Madness, but that's the only thing I could really take away from these movies in general here. I mean, these movies don't seem like they're that bad overall, especially these early movies, but I've just never really had the keen interest on checking these early movies out in general here. They don't really fit me in particular, so... But they have their audience, so what am I going to add to it that probably hasn't already been said already about them? I mean, they seem like fine movies overall. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too bad about them, but just kind of in the middle, and they know the audience they're trying to sell to, so not much more I can say about this film already, but let's get to some films I have seen. Unfortunately, especially with this first movie we have here, let's talk about Dougal.
Legend tells of 3 magic stones, and an evil so powerful that the only one who can stop it is the world's most fearless warrior.
The fearless warrior couldn't make it today, so I came instead.
This February, one dog must lead an unlikely fellowship on the adventure of a lifetime.
It's all clear. Come on.
3 stones to rule the world. My precious.
Kidding.
One dog to find them. Dougal.
Get the dynamite!
I didn't know they were shooting Ice Age 2 up in here.
From the creator of The Fairly Odd Parents. If he can't save us,
I can fly! No, I can't.
Then someone else will have to.
I'm fine. I broke the fall with my face.
Featuring Chevy Chase, Judi Dench, Jimmy Fallon, Whoopi Goldberg, William H. Macy, Ian McKellen, Kevin Smith, and Jon Stewart. Dougal.
So first off, I probably should mention something that I probably should have talked about early on. Some of you might be wondering, why haven't I talked about Hoodwink? Because Hoodwink was actually the first Weinstein animated film release, and that actually came out in January of 2006. I completely forgot that that even came out. I mean, here's the thing. I went to Box Office Mojo's website. That's where I get my information from when these movies come out in general. And when I went to the 2006 weekend list, I kid you not, I completely forgot that Hoodwink got a limited release, because when I looked at that particular weekend, January 13th, I'll actually show you right here. Yeah, Box Office Mojo somehow really does this a lot, but then again, yeah, that thing's been out for 5 weeks in limited release, and it just got a wide release on that particular weekend. So that's why it's not on this particular weekend for January 13th, and I didn't cover it in that episode. I will cover this movie in the 2006 leftover episodes, but that's why that was not included in the list. Now, the other question you might be asking yourself is, what the fuck did I just watch? Because, yeah, this is a pretty bad movie. So, this is based off of a television show of the same name, where you have a group of unlikely heroes who go on a quest to stop a reawakened villain who intends on freezing the world from retrieving a set of powerful diamonds. Now, this is a film that was originally released in France back in 2005, and then was released to the U.S. a year later, and, of course, the Weinstein Company was involved in the U.S. dubbing of this, and according to William H. Macy, Harvey Weinstein saw the Magic Roundabout, which is what this movie was called in France, and decided to produce an American localized version of the film. And in Ascension, most of the cast was recasted with people like Chevy Chase, Jimmy Fallon, Whoopi Goldberg, Bill Hader, William H. Macy, Jon Stewart. You had a child actor playing the titular character in the U.S. in the dub version, Daniel Tay, who does not sound like that in the trailer. That sounds like Kevin Smith, even though that's not him. The creator of the Fairly Odd Parents byline is kind of true. The U.S. version was was handled by Butch Hartman of the Fairly Odd Parents fame, but even then, it really doesn't seem like it's him in general here. And, you know, even Hartman himself has said during the Weinstein scandal that most of his input was rewritten and reproduced by Weinstein, and the final film, he had only 3% to do with the film in general. So yeah, take that for what you will. But yeah, you can just look at the trailer for this movie and just see how abysmal this movie is. Like, it's It's so poorly executed. It's not animated well whatsoever. Like, even if you probably were a fan of the TV show, even the people who liked the TV show probably looked at this and went, this is terrible. Like, this is a terrible film altogether here. And it's interesting because Hoodwinked was a good movie. It actually was a really good movie. One that kind of came out of nowhere. It also had kind of chunky animation too, but the writing and the comedy was so well done, and the voice work was so well done that you kind of overlooked the choppy animation. But here, there's just no way to not see the choppy animation in this. I mean, it's poorly put together with a really bad storyline, just a mess of a film on so many levels. It came, it crashed, it burned. What more can you say about this one? It's Dougal. It's not a very good movie. So let's go ahead and move on to the last film, easily the best film of the weekend, and that is Running Scared.
From its supercharged action-packed opening,
It's down on the ground.
Running Scared winds you up and doesn't let go. The guy was a cop. Paul Walker's best performance.
This whole thing is about to blow up. Come on!
I just heard shooting across the hall.
A mind-bending extreme movie experience. Running Scared. Rated R. Starts Friday, February 24th.
Paul Walker had a really good February, as you can see here. Running Scared follows the story of a low-ranking mafioso who's ordered to get rid of a gun used to kill corrupt cops, only to find himself in a race against time when the murder weapon falls into the wrong hands. The wrong hands being a kid and his mother, played by Cameron Bright and Vera Farmiga. Chaz Palminteri is also in the film as well. Directed by the guy who did The Cooler, and this is a kind of a little fun, underrated little gem here. It's a movie that wasn't a big hit financially. It was only a mixed-reviewed film. Got mostly mixed reception from critics, but it did go on to have somewhat of a cult following over the years, and it's kind of hard not to see why. Paul Walker really is very good in the film. It's a very stylized-looking film. Like, you could tell a lot of inspiration for, like, Crank and Shoot 'Em Up came from a movie like this. It's an engaging mystery. It's an engaging thriller aspect in general here. The action sequences are very well done. The casting overall is very good. Paul Walker giving another really good performance after last week in Eight Below. I mean, this is what shows what he could have been as a leading actor in general here before he eventually went back to the Fast and Furious movies. I mean, there's a lot to admire about the film. It's a very good mystery. It's a very good story to tell. There's a lot there to really appreciate about it. It's definitely a very underrated film, and one I do think deserves a lot more attention. It's one I highly recommend checking out. Running Scared, really a good film. Definitely one of the more underrated films released this year.